us find peace. Let us find love.
Let's just take a minute and center ourselves in that deep time. Just for a brief moment. Feel that. We give thanks knowing that our true teacher is the Christ within us, and so we are open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth. And I invite you to affirm with me, I am open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth from within me. Let's affirm it. I am open and receptive to the living Spirit of truth from within me. And so it is. All right, thank you again. Thanks for being here. All right, so as you know, in Unity we do work with positive statements, or constructive statements is a really better way to say it, because it opens up our minds and our consciousness to that spiritual reality. So I'm going to invite you to affirm this with me. How many times? 3 times. All right. And we affirm it not to make it true, but because it is. That's right. All right, good. And I'll invite you to engage your energy system however you want to. You want to blink your eyes or wiggle your toes, or if you want to, use your hand motions and follow mine, or do whatever you want. So I just invite you to engage with your energy system. So here we go. I am a dynamic expression of God, living my true self. Again, I am a dynamic expression of God, living my true self. Feel that? And let's affirm it one more time. I am a dynamic expression of God, living my true self. All right, good stuff. So that's what we're doing here in July. And as Reverend Carol said, I'm going to be speaking from different aspects of this booklet this month, and it's a lot of fun. So today I'll be we'll be referencing some of the readings from Charles Roth, How to Change Your Life, and exploring the inner space. And also there's some articles by the great Eric Butterworth in here, and I'll reference him a little bit. So if you didn't get a booklet, they're free. Get one on your way out, and read it at home. It's great stuff, really good stuff, really speaks to us today. All right, so here you go. So there's a hot dog vendor on the streets of New York, and as hot dog vendors on the streets of New York do, his cart was filled with all kinds of condiments to put on those hot dogs. So here comes a Buddhist monk, and he comes up to the vendor, and he's getting ready to buy a hot dog, and he says, and he looks at all the different things. He says there's relish and mustard and hot relish and pickles and mayonnaise and all kind of stuff there, and he's standing kind of contemplating, and the vendor says, "Sir, what would you like? What kind of hot dog can I help you with?" And the monk says, "Make me one with everything," right? Okay. We know that we're already one with everything, right? And not with relish, right? We know that we are one with all things and all people, that we are in relationship, that we are in expression with everything that is created. And so, it can seem like when we are just looking at things on the outer, it doesn't seem like we're one with everything, does it? We look around and we see all that's going on in the world. We see what appear to be all these separate items, the separate bits of creation. We see separate people. We see all this. And it can get to feel overwhelming. It can get to feel like there's so much going on. There's so many people. And we can start to feel a little bit like we're just ants, sort of scurrying around and trying to get what's ours, right? It can feel like we are in competition with everything and everybody if we're just looking on the outer. And we can wonder, how do I stack up? We do that a lot, don't we? As human beings, we kind of look around and we think, well, all right, who's above me, who's below me, that kind of stuff. We all do it. It's so unproductive, but we do it. The antidote to that, the way to get out of that kind of thinking, out of that feeling insignificant, out of that feeling like, man, I'm in competition with everything, and how do we all stack up here, is to stop just looking at the outer world. Yes, we need to pay attention to it, of course. We are manifest beings and in a manifest world. And when we start grounding ourselves in the within, when we start exploring inner space, we start really knowing who we are in the within, life starts to look very different, doesn't it? Because we start to realize truly that we are one with everything. And that within us, that we have all of the potentiality that is God. And our work here in our expression, in our personal lives and in this earth, is we are here on a mission. We're here to express those God qualities and to be a part of that whole that's in a productive manner. So I'm going to share this with you, and I'm just going to read it right out of this booklet so you'll really know it's in here, so you'll go home and read this. And this is from Charles Roth's article, How to Change Your Life. So he writes, but in the inner world, the spiritual universe, we are individuals. We are points of expression of a miracle power. You have meaning and purpose because you are part of a spiritual whole, W-H-O-L-E. Just as the smallest part of your body is important to the normal and perfect functioning of the whole body. You can begin today right where you are with the knowledge and understanding that you presently have. That's a relief, I think. Yeah? You don't have to wait until you are some quote, quote, holy person, whatever that means, right? Or till you've read all the books or figured it all out or prayed enough or whatever it is. That's not how this works. It's not what it's about. It's right here, right now, where I am, with what I understand today. Guess what? It's enough. And to start with that and simply begin allowing yourself in a greater way than you even have ever before is to know that God is with you, within you, that you are an expression of God, and that the power of God, the potentiality of God is who you are. And you can give thanks and gratitude for all the ways that you already experience that, the ways that you already express that, and say, God, I'm ready for more, right? I am ready for more. We truly are one with everything and everybody. We're one with people on the physical level. Literally, we really are, and this whole earth is literally stardust. That's what science tells us, that everything that's created comes from the chemical and atomic reactions on the stars. And I always like to say, Joni Mitchell was right. It's true. We're the same psychologically, in the sense that we have different personalities, yes, and yet we all have emotions, basically the same 5, right? Mad, sad, glad, ashamed, whatever, I don't remember the other one. Anyway, we all have attitudes, we all have thoughts, we all have visions, we all have a sense of possibility, we have the ability to think and to plan. So psychologically, we really are like everybody else. Again, it comes out in different configurations, certainly. We put it together in different ways, and yet the basic building blocks of us psychologically and emotionally is all the same. We're all the same inside, that what goes on with us. And at that most profound level, we are the same spiritually. All of us are the essence of God. I love both of those songs that we were singing. I guess we sang 3 songs already today. They all really point to that reality, that we are the goodness of God in expression, that God is the very air that we breathe, that we do live, move, and have our being in God. And that's the literal truth. You know, again, scientists tell us that the Big Bang happened, I don't know how many billions of years ago, but the genesis of the matter of this universe, that it started as a particle that was, I think it's a million billionth or something of the size of an atom. Out of that came everything in this material, not just this earth or this solar system. I'm talking everything, the whole universe. Can you imagine that? A million billionth of the size of an atom. We were there. You ever thought about that? You remember those movies? I'm telling my age here. You remember those movies in school? You were there. And those historical things. Did anybody else have those? Anyway, if you don't understand that, don't ask. Okay. Anyway, but we were there. We were there when that billionth teeny weeny fraction of an atom exploded. And you know, it didn't take it very long either. It was, scientists say, it happened like in the 10 to the minus 43rd power. That's if you had a second and could put 43 zeros that tiny bit of a time, it exploded. And we came out of that. We came out of it, as did everything else in the material universe. So we were there at the very beginning. We were there at the very beginning. And that means that we have a purpose, that we have a place, that we have a meaning and a reason to be here. It's not insignificant that we're here. It's very significant, and we are called to express that is within us. The other piece about this, about the Big Bang, is that while science says, all of that tells us about the material universe, that's probably pretty accurate, what they too also say is, and where did that atom come from, or whatever, that teeny fraction of an atom? And you know what they say? We have no idea. Because they don't. And that's okay. Because basically, as far as we can tell, there wasn't anything, and then there was something. That's not some woo, that's science saying, well, I don't know. There was nothing, and then there was something. I choose to call that, quote, nothing, God. You can call it, there are many names. People have a lot of names for it. Whatever you want to call it is okay, whatever resonates with you. But I like to call that substance-less generativity. Before there was anything material, there was God. And if you look at the ancient myths across the cultures of the world, they all kind of talk about that one way or the other. In the beginning, right? And you'll find it across cultures. That there is they all basically say there was nothing, and then there was something. So that generativity, that which seems to be and is actually without materiality, that which is generative, which is the source of creativeness, guess where else that lives? In us. That's in us. And so that's why it matters that we explore that inner space. Because what we're called to do is to make conscious contact with that generativity. To, yes, value and honor and respect ourselves as material, psychological, emotional beings. Of course, we must do that. And we do it from the basis of realizing that within us, that which is unseen, which we can call by whatever name, I call it God, and individualized as the Christ. Again, truly, you can use whatever terms you resonate with, but that's in us, and we are called to connect with that because it is from that place that we generate all that is constructive, all that is good, all that is helpful, and all that honors the connectivity that we have with all people and all creation. There's a traditional Buddhist and Hindu story about Indras Net. Maybe you've heard this. It is such a beautiful story and such a beautiful imagery of what this creation is all about. So the story is this, that the great god Indra, who's the king of heaven, has within that kingdom a beautiful net. And you can imagine it as if you would, maybe like a spider's web. If you've ever seen a spider's web on a morning with dew and the sun shining through it, all those gorgeous drops, it's just glittering. You can imagine it a bit like that. So Indra's net is infinite. There's no end to it. And at every juncture of where the pieces, where the strands of that net cross, there's a beautiful jewel, just like in that spider's web in the morning with the dew, a beautiful glittering drop of dew. Well, the Indra's net is filled with beautiful jewels. And all of the jewels reflect all of the other jewels. And if you tug on one jewel, then all the other jewels move. Or if you paint a dot on one jewel, because they reflect each other, like, if you hold mirrors up and there's an infinite reflection of mirrors, they all reflect each other, and all of the jewels have dots on them. Whatever in each of us is one of those jewels. Every aspect of creation is one of those jewels. Whatever happens to one jewel happens to all the jewels. We matter. We matter. What we express makes a difference. To the degree that we sort of spew our confusion out there, we all have confusion, we just get to learn how to contain it, right? But to the degree that we spew out there the emotional upsets and the fears that come just from paying attention to the outer, guess what? It affects everybody, right? One way or the other. And that's okay. We're all human. And yet we can learn more and more to come from that place within, to come from the essence of that beautiful jewel that we are, to come from the essence of that generativity that we are. And in that way, when we put forth out there that genuine love, that genuine peace, that genuine abundance, and it's happening and we're expressing it from one of us, what's happening to everybody else? They're getting it too, right? And so that's what we're here to do. That's how it is that in that level of spirituality, we make so much difference. Every one of us has so much good, so much constructive expression to bring to Indras Net, because we are all a part of it. And we're learning that so profoundly right now, right? So powerful that we're learning so clearly how it is that we affect other people. So whatever is within us is going to be expressed outside. And so it matters that we get to know who we are inside on all levels so that we may be responsible to that, so that we may be aware and that we might express that. Jesus talks about the same thing. He uses a really, really different image than Indras Net, and yet he's really talking about the same thing. And I want to share this with you. And this is from the Gospel of Luke. And it's in chapter 6, verse 43 through 45. So Jesus said it this way. He used an agricultural image, which he often did. So he says, "No good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does a bad tree bear good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. Figs are not gathered from thorns, and grapes are picked from, nor are grapes picked from a bramble bush. The good person out of the good treasure of the heart produces good, and the evil person out of the evil treasure produces evil. For it is out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks." Now, it may be a little uncomfortable to hear that business about bad and evil and all that stuff, so just kind of move on. No. But what he's talking about there is the importance of being aware. Evil is simply lived spelled backwards. And so what we're talking about evil, when we understand that spiritually, is where is it that I'm disconnected from my life? Where is it that I'm unaware of who I am? Where is it that I'm sleepwalking and not aware of what I'm putting out there on Indras Net? What is it I'm not aware of how it is that I'm affecting my own life and other people? And goodness here is about fullness. It's about where is it that I'm aware of the fullness of my heart, of the presence of goodness, of God, of the attributes of spirituality within me, and how is it that I'm working in a conscious and aware way to begin to express those attributes. That's what we're called to do. That's what our invitation is to express that goodness. I'd like to share with you another reading from Charles Roth in that same article. He says, "Sometime, someplace, each of us must come to a point where we say, 'I've had enough of this kind of life.'" What he means, I've had enough of sleepwalking. I've had enough of bumping. You ever felt like a bumper car? Like, what's this happening to me? How come I'm keeping bumping into things, or things are bumping into me, right? That's when we're, to the degree that we're unaware of ourselves, that we're just kind of focused out there and we're not exploring that inner space. And at some point we get I get sick and tired of being bumped into by these other cars. And so we begin to look within. And so he goes on and he says, we say, "I've had enough of this kind of life. I want to change. There must be more to life than I'm experiencing. I want to change." Now, Charles Roth, I think there's being kind of an optimist, because often the first thing we think of is not, "I want to change." What's the first thing we often think of? Y'all need to change, right? Life needs to be different here, all right? And we try that out for a while, and we get a few more bumper car experiences, and then we get to the point where it's like, "Oh, okay, maybe it's me. Wherever I go, there I am," part, that thing. So we get to that part where we're going, oh, maybe there's something that I need to do that's different. Maybe there's some way that I need to discover who I am. Maybe there's some way that I need to begin to approach life differently. And we can. The key to that is self-awareness, being willing to know who we are psychologically, and there's so many tools available to us today, so many aspects of the psychological and emotional healing arts that we can avail ourselves of. In whatever way we do, but there's so much available to get to know ourselves psychologically and care for ourselves psychologically and emotionally, to care for ourselves physically, to respect ourselves and love ourselves, and then come to that place where we are ready, willing to know ourselves spiritually. St. Teresa of Avila put it this way. She said, the door by which we can enter the soul castle, because she spoke of the soul as a castle, is prayer. We're silly if we think we can enter heaven without entering our own souls, without getting to know ourselves. That's the key to a genuine spirituality, is being willing to know yourself and to do that work, to know who you are at the spiritual level. And the key to that is prayer and meditation. And Charles Roth speaks to that in his article. There's no one right way to pray. There's no one right way to meditate. It's not some outer thing that you have to look to do, or do you have to go take a course? You certainly can if you want to. There's lots available, lots of techniques and methods and so on and so forth. In the end, it's really not about that. In the end, prayer and meditation is about a willingness to sit still, even for a moment. And stillness doesn't necessarily always mean literally sitting your body down. It might. It means being willing to sit your mind down, right? To allow your mind to become still, to allow your mind to become clear, to allow yourself to let what is the essence of you, the godness of you, to begin to surface into your awareness. It makes a difference if you decide that you are going to be still and know that I am God. It will transform your life. I remember many years ago when I was just sort of bumping into all those bumper cars and wondering, why are they bumping into me? I don't get this. And I had a friend who was a regular meditator, and he suggested that perhaps my life might improve if I started to meditate. So I could see his life was a lot better the days that he meditated, and it wasn't so good on the days that he didn't meditate. I noticed that. And so I started a practice. Just didn't matter, just did the best I could, just to be willing to sit and say, okay, what do you have for me here? And it changed my life. I believe that I'm standing here today because I was willing to sit back then. It was the beginning of being receptive. That's what it did for me. I was becoming receptive. God was talking to me all the time, but I was busy, right? I was too busy to hear. And so the willingness to allow my mind to sit still is what began the process of my being receptive instead of resistant to what the spirit inside of me was telling me. And it absolutely has transformed my life. It has helped me understand much more fully who I am, and boy, I'm still working on it. You know, that's a lifelong endeavor. In your bulletin today, you got a brochure. This is when they're always out there available, so you're welcome to take more if you want them. This is very simple, and it talks about Unity's approach to prayer and meditation. And if you look inside of it, it talks about, again, Unity doesn't really have any hard and fast method, but this is inside it gives you the 5-step method that's just a description of what people in Unity have done for many years. It's helpful. It's very simple. It's not ominous or burdensome in any way. It's just a simple little guide to how it might be that I can learn to let my mind sit still. And it will change your life. I know some of you probably already have a strong practice of prayer and meditation, And whatever that means to you, again, there's no right way for it to look. It can look a lot of ways. And for those of you that want to expand that, and for those of you that want to start it, I invite you to take a look at this pamphlet. Take a read of it and give it a chance. Give it a try every day to take even if you just took 2 minutes every day to allow your mind to sit and allow. You'll find that you are transformed because you are now exploring inner space. You're finding out who it is that you really are. And I'll close with one more reading from the Charles Roth article. He writes, "But if you're serious about changing your life and the direction in which you're headed, let something deeper than your personal ego take charge." No, not that, Charles. I don't like that. Nothing wrong with the ego, it's just who's driving it, right? Your fears or your Christ. That's the deal. Okay, and he goes on and he says, "This something cannot easily be described or labeled, but it can be experienced. We can call it the superego or the indwelling Christ or the basic I am of you. Get to know you. Explore your inner space. You're worth it." Let's pray. Spirit, thank you so much. Thank you for the gift of my life. Thank you for the gift of all these lives. Thank you for the gift of life itself and all the ways it manifests. Teach us, show us, guide us, lead us, love us, and show us who we are. Thank you, God. Amen.